Southlake, where there are new allegations and new questions tonight about the murder of a drug cartel lawyer 3 years ago. The assassination was carried out in the middle of a busy shopping area. Attorneys for one of the three suspects claim the victim led a major Mexican drug cartel. NBC5's Scott Gordon broke this story. He joins us live from Southlake Town Square with the details. Scott.
Well, Brian, it was right about here on the parking lot of the town square that Juan Guerrero Chapa was gunned down execution style. Tonight, a new claim may help explain why, that he was head of the violent and powerful Gulf Cartel. From the beginning, the murder on Southlake's town square has raised questions. Who wanted Juan Guerrero Chapa dead and why? We knew he was the one-time personal attorney for Gulf Cartel leader Ociel Cardenas, but who would fly a surveillance squad all the way from Mexico to find Guerrero living in this million-dollar estate, as prosecutors allege, and then send a separate hit squad that pulled up in this SUV and shot him once in the chest and 9 times in the back? To add to the mystery and even the possible motives, Guerrero was an informant for the U.S. government. Now, for the first time, an answer from lawyers for one of 3 men charged with stalking Guerrero. In this court filing, they claim Guerrero became the de facto head of the Gulf Cartel after Cardenas' arrest, supervised murders, kidnapping, and torture, and made a large number of enemies.
This is a major drug trafficking organization, one of the primary cartels.
Fred Burton is vice president of the Austin intelligence firm Stratfor. He spoke to us via Skype.
When you look at the sophistication of the cartel hit there in Dallas, the allegation makes sense.
It does raise questions to me. If he was this high-level member or leader of an organization, why did he become an informant? And second of all, if he was that high level, why wouldn't he protect it?
Former federal immigration agent A.J. Irwin also wonders if Guerrero really was heading a major cartel, why was he allowed to live so quietly in Southlake?
He should not have been doing that. And if he was doing that, I believe that the U.S. government would not sanction that. But if they knew about it, then they have a lot of explaining to do.
The trial of the men accused of stalking Guerrero is set to start later this month at federal court in Fort Worth. Reporting live in Southlake, Scott Gordon, NBC5.
All right, Scott, thank you.
At Southlake Town Square was the work of 2 hitmen known as Captain and Clorox, paid by a Mexican drug lord called El Gato, the cat. The men knew exactly where to find what they were looking for at the upscale shopping center: Gulf drug cartel lawyer Juan Jesus Guerrero Chapa. A federal prosecutor spun that riveting story in opening arguments against 2 men accused of tracking Chapa for the hitmen. Like guides for hunters, the prosecutor told jurors. A witness testified that a hooded gunman used a silencer to pump bullets into Chapa as he sat in his SUV. It took only seconds. The getaway vehicle never came to a full stop. Investigators found a tracking device attached to Chapa's Range Rover. In federal court in Fort Worth, jurors heard that Jesus Ledesma Cepeda and his cousin, Jose Cepeda Cortez, tracked Chapa for months. Cepeda is a Mexican private investigator known for his ability to find people. His attorney said Cepeda had to track Chapa in order to save himself and his family from El Gato. In fact, he said El Gato was also using a GPS device to track the trackers. The attorney for Cortez said his client was merely a law-abiding U.S. citizen, helping his cousin because he speaks English. He said Cortez did not know the job would lead to murder. Complicating it all, attorneys say Chapa, who lived in this million-dollar mansion, was a government snitch, helping U.S. agents after the leader of the Gulf Cartel was captured. A defense lawyer called the group one of the most powerful criminal organizations on the planet. Jim Douglas, Channel 8 News.
Trial started today in Tarrant County. That sounds more like a plot of a movie than what you would expect to hear about in Southlake. May 2013, the personal lawyer for a leader of the Gulf Cartel was shot dead as he walked to his Range Rover at Southlake Town Square. 3 men accused of stalking and planning the murder of Juan Jesus Guerrero Chapa. News 8's Jim Douglas joins us live from court. Already some pretty interesting details coming out of this trial, Jim.
Yeah, John, and security, or I should say that jury selection started under very tight security here at the federal courthouse. This trial is expected to lay bare the sophistication and the brutality of Mexican drug cartels that can reach all the way into the most affluent North Texas suburbs.
Security is rarely so robust at federal court in Fort Worth. Many federal police officers patrolled inside and out, including the acting U.S. Marshal in North Texas. No cameras or even cell phones are ever allowed inside the courthouse. The judge told potential jurors that for their protection, he would keep their names secret even from lawyers. An unnerving start to the trial of two men accused of tracking a drug cartel lawyer so hitmen could murder him. Juan Guerrero Chapa died in a barrage of bullets while shopping with his wife at Southlake Town Square. A defense attorney described him as the de facto head of the Gulf Cartel. According to court documents, Jesus Gerardo Ledesma Cepeda and his cousin, Jose Luis Cepeda Cortez, used GPS tracking devices and surveillance cameras to set the trap. A son of one of the defendants, who was also arrested, will testify for the government. Federal prosecutors plan to call about 30 witnesses, including top FBI experts on computer forensics and cybercrimes. Defense attorneys want to call the former leader of the Gulf Cartel. He's in U.S. federal prison after cutting a plea deal. The trial could take a month. Several potential jurors told the judge that would be hard for them to do. Jim Douglas, Channel 8 News.
A murder at an exclusive shopping center in Southlake. What we've learned about the suspect vehicle and the victim's possible ties to the Mexican drug cartel.
It's 10 o'clock in North Texas. Fox 4 News starts now.
Good evening, I'm Clarice Tinsley. Several federal agencies are trying to figure out if an attorney and father of three shot to death in Southlake Town Square may have been targeted because of his business connections. First on Fox 1 News at 10, Calvert Collins in Southlake with the latest in this murder investigation. Calvert.
Well, Clarice, the police chief here would not confirm 43-year-old Juan Jesus Guerrero Chapa's affiliation to the Mexican Gulf Cartel, which is known for distributing cocaine, meth, marijuana, and heroin through Texas and all the way up to Michigan and New York. But Mexican news outlets have reported that the victim in this case was a well-known lawyer for that organization. But that's one reason why so many federal officials are here investigating this murder mystery.
It was definitely pre-planned.
Other shoppers and police knew immediately Southlake's first murder in 15 years wasn't random. Annam Abbott was stuck waiting until this morning to retrieve her car parked next to the victims.
It was a part of the investigation, so nobody could come in here. It was all caution taped out. Definitely a scary, scary situation.
Surveillance video and an interview with the victim's wife show the couple arrived at 6 p.m. last night and shopped for 45 minutes. His wife was in the driver's seat, and as Juan Jesus Guerrero Chapa got into the passenger seat of a Range Rover, police say a white SUV drove up, a man got out, and shot Guerrero Chapa at close range, then took off in that white SUV. Guerrero Chapa died shortly after at Baylor Medical Center Grapevine. The shooter is described as a Hispanic man between 5'7" and 5'10", wearing some kind of mask.
Obviously, this was a well-orchestrated, deliberate act involving a specific target.
Southlake Police Chief Stephen Milet believes this was a professional hit. A nearby off-duty officer heard the gunshots, so they don't believe a silencer was used.
The nature of this homicide, the way it was carried out, indicates, and I say indicates, an organization that is trained to do this type of activity.
Investigators found 9 shell casings next to the victim's car. Police say Guerrero Chapa lived in Southlake for 2 years, but had no property records under his name. He was a Mexican national, but it's unknown why he was in Southlake.
He operated a private business in Mexico and at some point practiced law in Mexico and may have been affiliated with a law firm in South Texas.
The state bar does not show he has a law license in Texas. I want to show you a picture of that suspect's white SUV. Police say it has a partial Texas plate with the letters B as in boy, H as in house, and Y as in young. They do not think the car is still in the area, but want to put it out there in case it jogs someone's memory. And if you have any information, please call Southlake Police. Clarice?
Calvert, thank you.
Marcy, these three men were arrested on Friday here in the Valley. Today we learned their names and the roles they played in this drug cartel-related slaying. Yesterday, Jesus Gerardo Ledesma Cepeda, Jesus Gerardo Ledesma Cortez, and Jose Luis Cepeda Cortez, all related, went before a federal judge in McAllen. Two of them were caught crossing into the U.S. from Mexico, while the third suspect was arrested in Edinburgh. The victim, Mexican attorney Juan Jesus Guerrero Chapa, was shot dead in May of 2013 while sitting inside an SUV in Southlake, a wealthy Fort Worth suburb. Today we learned that the three men now in custody were stalking their victim by setting up cameras near his home and tracking his vehicle before the shooting. Guerrero was shot execution style in broad daylight. An autopsy showed he was shot 10 times and had cocaine in his system when he died.
A multi-agency task force, including local, state, county, and federal law enforcement organizations, formed a coalition to bring these people to justice.
We're told Guerrero was the personal attorney for former Gulf Cartel leader Ociel Cardenas. Guerrero's wife was loading groceries into their car as he was gunned down. She survived the attack. In the studio, Nadia Galindo, Action 4 News.